Hello everyone, welcome to PeopleStrong Payroll Masterclass. Today we are going to talk about mastering payroll partnership from selecting, transitioning and to the adoption. How do you choose a right payroll partner? My name is Bhalaajhee Madangopal. I look after sales for PeopleStrong for India region, and along with me I have Mr. Vikas Sapra, Chief Revenue Officer at PeopleStrong. Just a little more about Vikas. Vikas is basically from payroll domain, having more than 3 decades of experience. Started his journey as an entrepreneur. Over a period of time, built a product called WebPay, managing the payroll end to end, which got later acquired by PeopleStrong. And today he and his team manages a huge volume of payroll, close to a million paychecks every month, with a value of around US 10 billion US dollars. Now I would like to have Vikas talking few words about this payroll masterclass and also share his thoughts.
Sure. Thanks, Bala. I'm doing payroll since 99. I started my journey in 94, but I started payroll since 90. And over these almost 25 years, I have seen the landscape of payroll. It has got changed completely. From 99, when basically the systems were like desktop systems, whereby the main ask of the user was to process the payroll after collation of those data inputs, process the payroll, ensuring the calculation is happening in the system, and calculation with respect to the gross and gross to net pay, and of course the compliances. And at that time, the systems were desktop and they were based on what Unix, C++, Workspace, DBase, Visual Basic, Access. So it was basically a single system where the data was entered either doing as a punch in or doing a bulk upload. From there to now, it has changed completely, which is that data collation has been automated. Your validations are part of the system. Your processing speed, and now people have moved from desktop systems to web-based, which means anytime, anywhere. The systems are DIY, do-it-yourself configurations. The report generations are in such a manner that the system is able to generate reports the way user requires, because there are builders in the system. And then the seamless integration of each and every data point, so that there is no manual intervention, so as to ensure accuracy of the payroll, timeliness of the payroll, transparency of the payroll. Because today payroll is not about only processing accurately or doing a timely disbursement of salary. It is really very important to ensure the experience of the user, and the largest user over here is the employee. So actually employee is the real customer, because you are processing paychecks for them. And the moment employee gets that paycheck, anybody feels happy the moment you get a message from the bank that this is the amount which has been credited. But what I learned while I was implementing one of the customers, a very large customer, where 95% of the population was feet on street, it is very important that the data which is shown back to the employee is shown in such a manner that the employee is able to comprehend it. Because at that moment, I learned one lesson, which was that payroll is not about only processing. It's about the trust relationship that we are able to create between the employee and the employer. Because the moment employee gets the salary and the employee gets those data points, and they are able to see that how this has been processed, we learned the lesson that it is the trust which is getting created. And with that trust, another outcome that I learned was that the moment the employee is able to trust the employer, the attrition rate dropped in those employers. So those are learnings. A very important thing that has happened in this journey is that, so of course there is experience that I have gone through, but I've learned so many things from the customer. So it is very important that we keep on engaging with the customer, understanding that how systems are working, how processes are working, how people are working, because then only from that knowledge we are able to improve ourselves. And of course, learning from the team members, anybody in the team, from possibly the latest entrant to a very experienced person, we should actually listen to everybody and then decide that what is the next course of action. Apart from this, today what any user is expecting from any technology, and I will not categorically say about payroll has got many use cases that can be done, and because it is about the financials, any technology, the artificial intelligence part is going to be very important. So it's like today technology is do it yourself. Every user should be able to do things themselves and many a places technology should be able to do things on behalf of those users. That's basically the landscape change in the last 25 years. So where the system was only used to process, today it is that the system is doing a lot of activities which the user was doing earlier, thereby saving huge amount of time, increasing the productivity, saving the cost to the organization, increasing the experience of the user. So it's like a huge change. And I feel really blessed that I am part of this journey because not only the landscape that I have seen, the changes in the landscape, and there is a huge amount of learning, but also because I believe that payroll is something which is like a blessing. We are serving almost 1.2 million or even more paychecks on a month-to-month basis, processing close to $10 billion of salary. But it is not only about 1.2 million; it's about also the families because we are processing those paychecks, processing those salaries, and imagine the impact that is going to happen to those families. So it's a real blessing.
Thank you, Vikas. Every time when you talk about payroll, you talk with a lot of heart. Thank you so much.
I've lived it. So it's like the group that internally we have, it's eat, sleep, payroll. So we
Right.
do
No, no,
that
I
day in
can.
and day out.
I have witnessed myself many times working with you for the last 7 years. So yes, thank you so much. Just getting back to the topic. So because while we need to choose a payroll partner, there are certain important factors, right? And many times we have seen with our customers, there is no set framework or parameters which they evaluate in a structured manner, right? Different customers, different pain points, and different thought process. So this masterclass, what we are trying to do today, right, is to help all our payroll team managers or the payroll fraternity, right? When they go about choosing a payroll partner, what are those key elements they need to look at, which they cannot compromise? There might be few things which is very unique to those customer which can be further discussed during the evaluation process, but there are certain things, right? The outcome of this session is what they should be able to gather good information, whichever prospect or the customer who wants to evaluate any product in future or technology in future, this should be a handbook. So that's the whole agenda behind
Absolutely. It's not only that. I will also like to add to this that it's basically an open discussion. And what we are going to do is we are going to share our experience
it.
of the
Correct.
last 25 years. Now, we'll be really very happy when users are able to see this and they also comment on things that they have got from this masterclass, and they can also share if there are new things that we can learn because it's a dialogue which will possibly continue. So when somebody is making a choice of payroll, I think the first question that needs to be answered is that whether the payroll has to be outsourced or payroll product has to be taken, and if they have got their in-house team. So that is the first foremost question that one needs to answer. And this can be answered by, so typically today, many organizations, what they do is they outsource any activity which is not core to them because of the reason that they want to focus in their core activity, right? In payroll, it will again depend that whether the organization is doing payroll themselves and they have got the team in-house, because when we say team in-house, this means that you need to have people who have the detailed knowledge about the compliances is going to be one of the most important things. See, it's like that in my learning, when you process payroll and if any correction needs to be done for a salary of an employee and the employee is with you, those corrections can be done in the next month, right? Of course, we want to maintain the 100%. But in case you want to do any correction, you can do that in the next month. So when you do compliances, you deposit those compliances with the government. If you have done any wrong interpretation of the law and you are not aware of this, then possibly we are saying that the government is going to notify you after a long gap of the period. So it's really very important that your compliances are absolutely accurate. So for this, you need to understand that whether you have got people in-house who are going to take care of those compliances, who are going to do the interpretation of those compliances, or you need to outsource your payroll to a third party who is going to process, like what we do in PeopleStrong. We do payroll managed services where we do the compliance interpretation. We discuss with the customers. We create those CKMs, that is the client knowledge manual, document it, and then month on month we are processing. Or the other thing is that the employer has its own team and they can take the payroll product and we do the configuration. So this is the first question that anybody has to answer.
So now let's get into the presentation. We have created few slides which talks about the agenda for today. And as well as we have also done a quick poll on LinkedIn about those key factors which are considered during for choosing a payroll partner. So yeah, as per this masterclass, today we are going to discuss more on choosing the right payroll partner. The first point you see here. In this context, we conducted a poll on LinkedIn on few major factors what we have seen over a period of time as important elements for the customers while they choose a payroll partner. So one is the cost effectiveness. Of course, there needs to be a ROI when you look for a change, right? Then there is complaints expertise. In payroll, you can never compromise on statutory compliances. It has to be 100% accurate. Then you have data security, and also the technology plays a very prominent role, whether you talk about the processing time, the accuracy, the DIY configuration, so on and so forth. And then last but not the least is customer support. Of course, you need a good customer support ecosystem from your partner so that the show runs without any problem. So out, if you look at the numbers here, the second and third, which is around compliance expertise, data security and technology, they carry the maximum vote, approximately around 70%. We know definitely these are very critical elements. Because would you like to throw some lights on this? Why this is very important and how do you see it from a customer standpoint?
So of course, compliance is something which is very, very important because compliance has got penal complications. There are civil and criminal liabilities with respect to compliance. So it is very important that we are 100% compliant. One. Second thing is that you will find that most of the governments today have automated their systems. And because they have automated their systems, they have got each and every data point. So PeopleStrong is currently serving customers in India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. And everywhere we are seeing that the government systems are automated, which means that earlier it was manual form filling, and it is manual form filling, then it is very difficult for anybody to get deeper into any anomaly. Today, it is everything is there on technology. So government has got each and every data point, and they are able to scrutinize it very efficiently and very fast. So it is really very, very important that whatever technology we use, the interpretation of the law has to be absolutely correct. Then the processing and the deposition has to be absolutely within the timeline. All the data points which are required by the government are provided to the government. Otherwise, what happens is that when the government does a scrutiny, and if the scrutiny has been done, let's say for years, then this means that your penalties and your interest are supposed to be paid from those many years. So there is a liability which you have not foreseen. So there's an unforeseen liability, and that is why I believe that most of the people have rated that compliance is very, very important because they might be getting those notifications. Then data security technology is a huge, huge thing. It's a financial data. It's the employee data. Any technology that you use has to provide that. There should not be any technology which can be hacked. The data encryption has to be there. Data security is one of the most important point that anybody will look for while they are looking for any payroll partner. Similarly, ease of use, which comes in technology, DIY, so on and so forth. And today, we are in the age of artificial intelligence. So how that artificial intelligence is going to make an impact. So those are things. So like, for example, you find that the customer support has drastically gone down. Customer support was a very important point, possibly 6-7 years back, because most of the queries were getting resolved through customer support. Today, because technology has taken that shape and form, customer support has gone down because now technology is doing the talking. So technology should be such that it talks to each and every user, be it HR user, be it finance user, be it employee user. Technology has to talk. And then, of course, anything boils down to economics, which is cost effectiveness. The return of investment is going to be very important. So I believe that the poll is as per what I also understand when I'm talking to the customers. The poll shows the exact of the customers when we speak to them.
Got it. Thank you. So, a strong technology makes you less dependent on people. That's what you're trying to say.
It's basically Bala in any functions. So we are talking specifically about payroll. Any function, there are three elements, which is basically people, process, and technology. And your experience and your expertise with respect to people, process, and technology is really very important. When I started in 99 and now it's like more to do with technology because a lot of things are supposed to be done through technology. There are huge amount of improvements which have been done in processing. And by processing, I mean not only the payroll processing, but the entire process, which the entire conveyor is there. And then the people. Payroll is a very sensitive subject. People have to be sensitized. People, we have to ensure that regular trainings are to be provided. How people are going to act on newer requirements which the customer is asking for. So it's really very important. So PeopleStrong is having what 2005 PeopleStrong started payroll, and now it is 24, which is 19 years. And in these 19 years, we have done our set of mistakes and learned it. Now, whether whenever a new person is joining, are we able to induct those lessons into them? What kind of trainings are happening? Because any organization which actually starts a new business, they will be learning from the previous books or white papers. But then there are certain learnings which happen when you actually have done the mistake yourself. So what I have seen is that in these 18 years, we have learned so many things that now the processes are so well scripted, so well bound that I don't see that there are rooms to do those kind of mistakes. So it is really very important that the experience and expertise in all these three tangents, people, process, and technology, is ascertained, and then only the choice of the partner is done. It's really very, very important.
Got it. Thanks, Vikas. So the next one, I think, which is very important.
Let me take this through. So this is something which shows you the entire conveyor of payroll and how can we have a zero touch payroll. I will also discuss here some of the use cases that I have gone through. For example, if you are using only a payroll partner or you are using a complete comprehensive technology, the first choice is going to be that in case you are using a complete comprehensive technology where payroll is also part of that technology, then your employee onboarding, your complete salary data point, and all other data points are part of that technology. In case you are using some other HR tool and then you are using a payroll technology, then it is very important that it is integrated. Instead of downloading your HR related data, your employee data from HR tool and then uploading or sending it to a partner to process payroll, it is really very important that there is a seamless integration, which will be on the left side. If you can take your pointer on the left side, so there is master data. So there will be org structure, there will be employee data, which is there. There will be salary data. At the time you onboard an employee, most of the data you are consuming at the time of onboarding. Then there will be certain data points which the employee will be uploading. For instance, they can upload their bank data points. And then there is the salary data. All this data, if you are using a complete comprehensive technology, then it is there. In case you are not using and you are having another HR tool and your payroll tool is different, then it is very important that there is an integration between both should talk to each other so that there is no manual intervention. So the feed should automatically come. Then the second actor who is going to provide the feed is going to be the employee himself or herself. So employees are going to log into the system. They will be making a choice of their flexi benefit planning. They will be doing their declarations. They will be claiming certain reimbursements. So the employee should have the technology. And today, when we say the technology should be mobile, every person is habituated to use the mobile. And the shift in the user behavior that we have seen in the last 4 years is that 98% of the people today do things on mobile rather than doing on a laptop. So it is very, very important that a very simple, easy to use mobile application is there where employees are able to do all those actions which they have to do. And then when the employee is doing these actions, it is very important that today the technology should have the validations at the source instead of employee taking an action and then it goes to a validator and then the validator rejecting because of some anomaly. It is very important that all the validations can be provided at the source. Whether it is employee, whether it is HR, VP, whosoever it is, it should be at the source. And then, of course, there is a maker and checker process, which is there, which is required for your auditing also. And maker and checker is required so that your accuracies are maintained. Then there will be another set of actors, which is going to be, then of course there is your attendance and leave data, which is coming from your leave attendance tool, which means that in case you are using your biometrics, in case you are using your face recognition genes, or in case you are using again your mobile app with your lat and long fencing, all those should be captured automatically. an employee should be in a position to understand that how many paid days are there. Because one thing that we have seen is, like in one of the customers, there were a huge amount of queries when the salary was processed and the employee was asking that there is a loss of pay deduction. So for which particular date the loss of pay deduction has happened. Now, what we did was that we published those data points on the app itself to the to the employee, so that the employee, instead of coming after the payroll is processed, is able to see those data points even before processing has been done, so that the correction can be done. So the concept of moving from post-mortem to a pre-mortem is one very important learning that we have had. Can we do every action before even the processing has happened, so that the observations are not coming after the processing? The observation should always be there before, and it is very important that the actor who is going to take an action, the observation is shared with that actor. It is so if I share an observation with an actor who is actually going to again call and then ask that actor to do the correction, it is wastage of time. So it's very important that technology needs to talk to each and every user. So here, technology talks to the employee, telling them that these are the loss of pay days, so that the regularization can be done, or at least employee is aware that yes, these are the loss of pay days. Then there will be certain variable payments. So, for example, the business users are going to provide these data feeds to the payroll team, that if there is any incentive which is supposed to be given to the employee, then can we stop data coming on email? Because if emails are coming from the business users to the HR payroll users, then what happens is I'm going to do a copy and paste. And in case I do a copy and paste and then I provide it to my partner who is processing payroll, or to my team which is processing payroll, there is every chance that the copy paste goes wrong. So there are modules, there are technologies through which you are giving access to even those users, so that you eliminate any data point in email. And then there will be users which are your finance users. So in case there are certain loans, advances which have been given to the employee, and finance is having the custody of that data, so some deductions are to be done from the salary. Now, instead, again, the finance giving this data feed on an email, they can again use technology to provide those data feed. So when I spoke about 99, when I started my journey, none of this was automated. Over the period of time, the first thing that everybody wanted to be automated was employee self-service instead of each and every data point. So in this journey, the first thing that got automated was employee self-service, whereby employees at least able to see the payslip instead of emailing, or instead of, so not only emailing, the first thing. So earlier what was happening was that the employer was taking a printout of the pay slip and then giving it to the employee. So from that, it moved to ESS, whereby employee was able to log in and view the payslip, and then thereafter other data points got automated. So today, when we say it should be a zero-touch payroll, we say that all data points from all the actors who are supposed to give that data point should be done through technology. A. B. Any validation which is required should be done at the source rather than doing it at the approver level. Of course, there is a maker and checker, and there is an approver which is going to do an approval. But it is very important that at the very first step itself, we are able to curb those anomalies. And then there is, of course, a maker and checker, so that when an auditor comes, the auditor is able to see that who initiated this data point, and then how the approval happened of this data point. Now, once this activity is done, and I'll tell you one more
Because
thing.
I'm sorry to interject, I have a couple of things too. So basically, you're talking about automation when it comes to the payroll input, right? How does data seamlessly flow? Whether you
Yeah,
talk about master, whether you talk about investment related information or taxation, or whether you talk
yeah,
about the monthly inputs like leave, attendance, variable pay, and all.
yeah.
While you talk about the technology advancement in this area, but still, what we are seeing in the customer side, the payroll input collation, especially when they have one system for HRMS and the payroll is different. It can be a product or it can be outsourced payroll, but the partner is different from the HRMS, right? So here
Mhm.
we are seeing lot of time taking for the payroll input collation process. And
Yeah,
eventually what happens from the cutoff to the disbursement of salary, there is a big time period, a long time
yeah.
period. I think one I would like to hear from you. I think in HDFC Life, this is where I think we added value by reducing the time frame between cutoff and disbursement, if I'm not wrong.
I
right?
will not say one client. I will say in many customers, many customers. I remember when we did Amara Raja, which
Right.
was what, 5 years back. Once we did that transition and the data collection part was automated, it was possibly, I'm sorry, I'm not able to recollect, but I think it was a reduction of something like 70 to 75% of cycle time, payroll time, which was consumed earlier. That much amount was reduced because each and every data point was then automated. See, this is what I was actually trying to tell you, that we need to understand that why does payroll go wrong? Payroll goes wrong because of three reasons. One is typically the data, and the reason that payroll is going wrong and the reason that data is incorrect is possibly 99% or even more. So data is very important. So it is very important to understand that either you're using a comprehensive technology where everything is there, or the technology is integrated with the HR tool that you're using so that your data is coming automatically. There is zero touch for any data, right? That is one. The second reason that your payroll can go wrong is that in case you have modified your configurations and you are not aware of. So then this means that there should be a maker and checker in the system, so that in case there is any change in the system, there is somebody who's going to approve that change, because you will be validating that whether that's change, what is the impact of that change. So there has to be that, because second reason is that if there is a configuration change and the user was not aware of, so your payroll can go wrong. Third reason, of course, is that if there is a bug in the technology. Bug in the technology is the least possible reason, because any organization, any technology company which is having bug in the system will not be able to sustain the business. So the most important factor is the data collection. So it's very important that your entire data collection activity gets automated. Either it is through the integration with your HR tool, or there are many tools and mechanisms. So we have actually created those tools. A variable input module is part of the system, which means you can ask your business users, your finance users, instead of emailing you those data points, use this module and put the values in this. And then there is an maker and checker process within the system, which again the auditor can check, which will mean, see, a very important learning is I have not come across any user who wants to do mistake happens because when people are processing payroll, and in case they realize that payroll has possibly gone wrong after they have processed their draft, then what happens is there is stress in the system, because there is a date that you have promised to your people that on this day the salary will be disbursed. You cannot go back to your people saying that we are sorry, we are unable to give you the salary because of XYZ reason. So it is very important. And because of that, because your date is fixed and because something has gone wrong, now there is stress in the system. Now imagine if there is stress in the system, what will happen? The user, whether if the stress is there with me and I am doing something, then I will possibly do mistakes. So a very important question that everybody needs to ask is technology helping to remove those stress points, those mistakes from the system? And that's why I say that it is very important that your first part, which is payroll input collation, gets automated. That is one. The second thing, which is very important, is calendarization of your activities. So there has to be a definitive calendar which is published and it is given to each and every actor. There has to be a cutoff time period, because you can make a choice between discipline and flexibility. I can make you happy if you say that I'm going to give you last minute changes. So I will, and I take those last minute changes from you without doing those proper validations, or I'm not taking those last minute changes in the system and then you are emailing me or you are calling me that please take this change, and I make you happy at that time. But what will happen is that if I do this, possibly there can be an error. And then if there is an error, I will make you sad later on. So it's very important that the second thing, that there has to be a discipline amongst all the actors, because payroll has to be accurate, payroll has to be timely given, and because accuracy is also going to have a hit on the compliances. So it's very important that calendarization of those activities are done, data collection is done, ring fencing of data, validation of data is done. There is a maker and checker process which is there in the system. Once this is done, and then you are ready to do this, then the next third very important step is that do a pre-payroll variance. So as I said, if I consume the entire data and I do the process and thereafter I realize that there is something which has gone wrong, what will happen is I will have to undo and I will have to start from zero then. So the middle process is once you have collated all the data points, do a pre-payroll check. So there will be, and these should be of course system driven. What is the pre-payroll check? So any configuration change that you have done in the system should be in a position to highlight those pre-payroll changes in the configuration. System should be able to highlight you, for instance, the bank data is not there. So I was helping one of the customers in Middle East, and they had a huge challenge in collation of the bank data points. And because of that, when they were releasing the salary, there were a lot of rejections because the bank data was not stored correctly in the system. Now, the moment the bank data has been stored in the system correctly, your salaries will be dispersed accurately. Remember one thing, when anybody does not get paid accurately, they are going to say that payroll has gone wrong. Now, payroll typically, as I said, 99 plus percentage goes wrong because of the data issues. So if your bank data is not available and you have not been paid, the reason is the data, the bank data is not available. So it's very important that you also do a pre-payroll check of your configurations, of your data before you process your salary. So if we do this and then we click on the payroll processing piece, this means 99.99% your payroll is going to be first time accurate. Your draft can be your final unless and until there are changes in the data points which you are getting. Otherwise, your draft can be your final. So after the pre-payroll is done, ensure that your technology is a single click process, because typically the cycles that are currently used are 21st of the previous month to 20th or 26th to 25th, so on and so forth, which means that the last few days of the month we are giving them optimistic attendance, marking everybody, taking everybody as present, and then processing the payroll. Next month we get those last 5-10 days depending on the cycle, what are the loss of pay days, and then the arrear is supposed to be computed. Or there is a change in salary structure which is pertaining to last month or last to last month, so there will be a retro arrear which is supposed to be processed. And then so there is gross salary calculation, there is gross to net, there is arrear computation, there is compliances which are supposed to be done. Ensure that there is a single click process and you don't have to do any calculation in an Excel sheet and do the upload. All the processing is happening on a single click. Once this is done, the next important thing is do a post payroll control check. And that again should be done through technology. Not that you are generating the sheets and then doing certain VLOOKUPs and all that stuff. There should be variance reports which are generated from the system so that you are able to cross validate those data points. And then the reports are generated from the system. Another very important thing which has come in the last couple of years is that your host to host integrations of your bank files. So typically earlier what was happening was that the bank file was generated from the system and a user was logging into the bank portal and then uploading that bank file, which means that you download it and then you upload. So there is a manual intervention, downloading and uploading. Now today there is encryption of those bank files. There is no downloading and uploading. It's a host-to-host integration with the bank portal. And similarly, there are host-to-host integrations with your financial ERP system. Possibly down the line in future, there will be host-to-host integration with the government portal for your withholding taxes, for your social securities, so on and so forth. So those kind of integrations are also going to happen so that there is nothing that you are actually doing in the entire conveyor. So that's why we say zero touch payroll is something which is very, very important. Everything should be driven through technology. Of course, people and processes are very important, but how can technology help? Now, on top of it, today the technology is helping employees, ensuring that not only that they have given their data points, which helps in processing accurate payroll, can technology help employee to reduce their taxes in absolutely legitimate manner? We did one study and we found that people who have made a choice of their allowances, they are not claiming those allowances by submitting their bills, thereby not taking advantage of the tax saving. So we are able to communicate those data points back to the employee so that without incrementing any salary, we are able to save their taxes and they are getting more salary in their hand. So that's basically the landscape of technology of payroll.
Okay, thanks, Vikas. We'll just move on to the next.
Yeah.
We spoke about the zero touch payroll, the entire
Yes.
process, right? From input to processing to the output. Right now, on the next step of technology, we there are certain elements to it when the customer look at automation.
Yeah.
Whether we talk about the functionalities, the comprehensive, because business to business, the way they operate is different. Certain nuances. They have been using it for quite some time, especially large legacy enterprises, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on that aspect, I would like to understand from you a little more on that. How do you evaluate from a comprehensive standpoint? Then, of course, no conversation is complete now without AI and Gen AI capabilities. So,
Yeah.
how do you look at what are the use cases you look at for payroll right now and in future with respect to AI? And third one is, of course, the flexibility of the system. I might have a great system in place, but how it can adopt to different customers, right? That configuration capability or the compatibility part. Last but not the least, again, is the security element. What are those key things which a customer should have in mind while they look at? I'm not talking about the IT certifications, but from a system audit standpoint, how do
So
you
even
look at it?
certifications are very important, Bala. Certifications are also very important
No, no,
because they are part of your
absolutely
audit.
got it, but that is generally.
And I'll also say that certifications are not only important that they are just mere certifications. It's a complete, thorough audit by a third party. So they are very, very important. Very important.
No, no, I agree. I was
Anyway,
just looking at from a
yeah,
product functionality standpoint, what are the checks and balances and audit should be there in a technology or a, yeah. So fine.
yeah. So when you are actually making a choice of a payroll partner, technology is something which is mainstay. It's really very, very important that you do a deep dive into the technology landscape that that partner has. So now, if I talk about India, and this was my learning when I started Southeast Asia, which was like Thailand, Philippines, and all those countries, and then even in Middle East. Earlier, my thought was that India being such a large country, the interpretation of law was different in one part of the country than the other part of the country. But when I ventured into Southeast Asia and Middle East, I understood that it's not about India. It's basically there are many interpretations of the law which has been laid, and unless and until there are cases which have been decided, and again, if a case has been decided by a high court, then possibly the other state may or may not be following that. And I saw that when there was a judgment made by Tamil Nadu High Court with respect to special allowances in India, and then there was a same judgment made by Supreme Court in around 2018. Then the rest of India also followed the same interpretation of the law. So it is very important that when you are seeing the technology, understand that each and every configuration of the law is a configuration. It's not hard coded in the system. It is a DIY configuration. One is it should be configurable. The second is it should be do it yourself configuration, which is it's a form based configuration, because on form there are validations which we put in. In case I am doing validations from backend, then this means that those validations are user dependent, person dependent, which will mean that the person will act right or wrong based on the SOP which has been given. If those SOPs are automated, which is DIY configuration, so it's very important. So all your rules, all your laws, all your norms, all your configurations should be a DIY configuration. And on top of it, it is very important that there has to be a complete audit trail, a maker and checker concept with an audit trail, so that I am able to see that which actor modified the data, which actor approved the data, what was the data point prior to making the modification. So those are very, very important, and it will only happen if it is a DIY configuration which is there. So that is one thing in technology features and functionality that one should look into. The second thing is that there will be reports which the system is supposed to generate. Different organizations will have different set of reports which are to be generated. And we also in PeopleStrong created many reports as per the understanding of the customers. But then we realized that if we keep on adding new and new reports, which means that if we are keep on adding reports basis the requirement of the customer and creating multiple reports, every customer may not be using all the reports. So which will mean that I am increasing the code with me, thereby increasing the cost, thereby increasing the cost to the customer. So technology should be created in such a manner that it's again the report should be configurable. So there should be a report builder in the system, so that, and the report builder should be in such a manner that the access is with the customer, end customer, so that they are able to do it themselves rather than raising a ticket and then somebody from app support doing it. The end user should do it, because the moment your technology allows the user to take the action, whatever they have to do it, this means I will end up reducing the cost. If I create a technology where the user has to raise a ticket and then some other user has to do an action and then there is an SLA, this means I'm increasing the cost. So create technology wherever I can reduce the cost, because the user which has demanded some service or something should be in a position to do it themselves. So there should be builders, there should be report builder through which you are able to generate those reports. Then there should be bank builder. So there is a different bank file in different banks, and each bank has got their format. Now, if you are getting more and more customers will have different kind of banks. Will you like to create those bank files for each customer? And eventually, as I keep on adding, I will possibly be reducing it, because then there will be a customer which is already using a bank file which is for another customer. But still, I will end up developing many bank files and then taking care of that code, because technology changes so fast. So there should be a bank builder. Again, which means it's a configuration. Again, it should mean that the configuration should be so easy that it should be done by the user himself or herself rather than raising those tickets. Then we have seen that the JVs which are published and the financial ERPs which are used by various customers, the way they do the cost booking, the formats are different. Now, again, I will not advise that we end up creating more and more JVs. It is very important that again there should be a JV builder through which the configuration can be done. Then there needs to be rule engine and the formula builder in the system, so that when we are doing transition and when we understand the nuances of the customer, we don't have to hard code anything. It should be driven through a rule engine or a formula builder. And it again should be a DIY, nothing from the back end, on the front end itself. Because as I said, on the front end, there are validations. If I end up doing in the backend, by backend I mean to say that I create some formula and put it in the table, then the validations are not going to happen. So it should be always a DIY rule engine and a formula builder. Security aspect will pick, as you already have a separate category. An audit trail, I have already said that each and every modification which is done in the system, you should be in a position to generate that what was the value prior to this modification, and then what are the validations in the system, who has done the approval, and then various other factors like the date and time. That all data points should be recorded in the system. Then very importantly, that the moment employee exits offboards from an organization, employee still needs uh, settlement slips or pay slips for yester months or yester years. They will need form 16. So it's important that the employee is able to again log into the system instead of, and when I say the employee, this is basically an exited person. So exited employee should be able to log into the system and they're able to generate the reports that they need, instead of again then they raising a service request to the HR team then again generating those reports for those employees and emailing them. Thereby it increases the cost. So those are the features, functionalities, which is really very, very important in today's day and age, that it should be done. Then the second category, as you have mentioned, the AI capabilities. It's like that you have got each and every data point in the system. Now, one is, as I said, that the system should talk to the user. So when I say system should talk to the user, this means that if I am the user, I go to the system and then I am talking to the system, thereby meaning that I am trying to generate some information from the system and the system is able to give me that information. So this means the user has to initiate that action. AI capability will mean that I know that what are the learnings that possibly the user is not able to take those actions. The user is not taking those actions. So for example, the user needs to do certain actions with respect to the investments, with respect to their regularization, and the user is not doing that, which is going to have an impact on their payroll, which is going to have an impact on their salaries which the employee gets, and then the employee may be unhappy, and it will be again a post facto, a post mortem, that employee will then raise a ticket, then the help desk is going to revert back that you did not do a regularization or you have not done this action correctly. How can AI help though to solve those use cases. As I mentioned earlier, can we help the employee telling that you have got these many reimbursements claims which you can do, you have got these many legit ways of saving taxes that you can do, you have got these many regularizations that you can do, this is how your overtime has been calculated. So AI can actually do all those tasks phenomenally well, and we at PeopleStrong are already doing some of those things, which enables the user so that they are getting not only paid accurately, but as I said, they are able to save their taxes legitimately. The third category is compatibility with your existing system. So as I said, the whole conveyor has to be seamlessly integrated. If you're using some other technology, then ensure that there is an integration, API integration is available with you, SFTP integration is available with you. So your each and every data point, your inbound integrations are in place, your outbound integrations are in place, and there is no data point which is sent on an email. Emails are in future going to be displaced, so there is nothing which is coming through email. It is all integrated or coming through technology. Fourthly, security is a very important point. So as you said, certifications, I will say that certifications are very important because certification is a third party audit. And when we are doing things ourselves, it's very important to be audited by a third party. So ensure that your payroll partners are audited by third party and all the certifications are in place. And also ensure that your data is secured, which means that your data at rest is secured, it is encrypted. So all the data which is getting saved in the database should be data in transit when you are requesting and then the server is sending back certain data. All those data in transit is also secured, encrypted. The moment a user is uploading any data, that is encrypted. A moment a user is uploading any bills, reimbursement bills, or any documents, those files should be encrypted. So there, each and every data point should be encrypted. You should be VIPD certified so that there is no, it should be hack proof because it is your employee data and it is your financial data. So security is again very important. So when you are making choice of your payroll partner, ensure that these things are available with respect to technology in that payroll partner.
Sure. So I think one important point I would like to highlight here is whether you outsource a payroll or whether you go for a payroll as a product.
Yeah.
Technology is important.
Very important. I mean,
Yeah.
so we are talking of payroll. I believe for anything today, technology is very important.
Yeah.
So
Because
I will not
before,
say that it's only about saving the cost. Of course, technology is going to increase your productivity, but ensuring your compliances, ensuring your safety of records, it's very important. So the landscape has changed hugely in the last 25 years. So 25 years back also there was technology, but today the technology has taken a huge U-turn. U-turn in the manner that today your entire piece is technology driven. All the processes that were being done manually and the processes which were being done by the people, it's a complete automated thing. So technology is one of the most important pillars today when you make a choice for your payroll partner.
yeah, I agree with you. Before, few years back, when a customer is trying to outsource the payroll, they look more on the people and the process. But in which ways they're outsourcing it. So
See,
technology
people
is
are still very important. I will not say that people are not important because see, it's like that when we are talking, the person needs
no,
to
we
understand
understood.
all the
All
other.
three P's are important: people, process, and tech. But the only point I would like to highlight here is, irrespective of the model of operating when it comes to payroll, whether it is outsourced model or in-house model, technology is very important along with the people and the process.
Absolutely. The only thing is that the percentages have changed. I will say today
Right.
technology has overtaken people and process. So when you are weighing, technology will have more weightage.
So we have discussed on technology part so far,
Yeah,
Vikas. So next we will move to the process part, which is
sure,
again very important element of the payroll.
sure,
I
absolutely.
move on to the next slide, which talks about the overall process during the
Yeah,
payroll.
Sure. So basically, in process, there will be certain things which are basic hygiene, which means that they are sacrosanct. They were earlier also, now also. For example, the first thing is the calendarization. So calendarization is very, very important, and the maturity that I have seen in calendarization is that people are now clear that it is very important that the discipline of that calendar should be maintained. So calendarization was happening earlier also. So calendarization is like typically what is the cycle that we are defining? What is the so we do a backward calculation, which means what is the day when the salary is to be dispersed, and then from there you do a backward calculation, and then basis that you do the calendarization. Your salary day is frozen. B, your cycle is frozen. So if your cycle is 26th to 25th or 21st to 20th, so that is frozen. Now in between you have to process the payroll. So calendarization is really very important. This typically should be done by fifth of the month for which payroll is to be processed, because in certain months when there is a holiday or and you want dispersal to happen prior to the holiday, so that people should be paid and they should get that amount, because they will be spending amount during the holidays. So that calendarization of the first the whole of the financial year and then every month is something which is very important. Process maturity has happened in calendarization. People have now opted for more discipline, so they adhere to calendarization than it was earlier. Change of law process is very, very important thing, because whenever there is a change by the government, what is the interpretation of the law, when that law is supposed to be implemented? There are many a times it is absolutely clear. Certain times the clarity is not there, and sometimes whenever there is a notification, so the application date is also supposed to be confirmed. Now, when I say confirmed, this means that because at times when there is not 100% clear, so what we do is whenever there is a notification as a process, any payroll partner, what they should do is that there will be an interpretation of the law that should be as per the best practices. If there is any case law which is there, that should be considered. What is the intent of the lawmaker? That is very, very important, so that we are not deviating from the intent of the lawmaker. Basis that a white paper is created, that white paper has to be shared with all the customers, and then all the customers are going to acknowledge this. The moment they acknowledge, then we need to do the implementation on the UAT, so that then certain use cases can be tested basis the changes, and a sign off process is very important. So a customer sign off on the changes which the government has notified, and once they have done, then it should move on to the production. Now typically all this process should be done, and there needs to be a quality check for all these changes, because these are changes which are changes in the law. So it is very important that a quality check is there, and the quality check is not done by the same team which is doing payroll process. It's important. It's an independent internal quality check which is there, not reporting to the same team, uh, and they should be doing that. Then the third is the data collection. It's a huge, huge change. As I said, 99.99% issues during payroll process happen due to data or the config change. Data is the biggest reason if there is an anomaly when somebody finds that in payroll. So data collation process modification in the last all these years has been the biggest change, I believe. Today, of course, there is artificial intelligence, but prior to this, it was data. So data collation is that how can we collate the data in a seamless manner? Like the first is that you do the integration, inbound and outbound integrations. Then there is that how can each actor provide the data using the technology framework rather than emailing you. Then on top of it, that how can we create validations at the source point of the data, which means that if a user is entering any data, how can user be helped by the technology by not entering incorrect data? Then once the data has been entered, then there needs to be a maker and checker flow. So there is one actor who is entering the data, second actor or second or third actor, depending on what is the workflow for each organization. There should be an approving authority. Now all these transactions should be recorded so that there is an audit trail, so that tomorrow when there is an external auditor and the external auditor wants to cross validate your payroll, you don't have to scramble through your emails. You can actually see in the system. And in the system, the mechanism should be that if you are giving some payment to an employee, what is the reason of that payment? And that evidence should also be recorded in the system. And of course, the conversation, which is the when it goes to the L1 and L2 manager or the business head, then all those conversations should be recorded in the system so that auditor has got the complete audit trail. Now, when this activity is done in such a manner, you will be in a position to eradicate all those issues which happen due to data. So, data collation, automation, maker and checker process, ring fencing, audit trail mechanism, it's very important. Typically, audit trail started as a mechanism where we are able to catch hold of the person who has done anything wrong. My belief and my learning is that instead of catching the thief, it's important how to restrict the theft. So technology should help users, because as I said earlier also, I have not seen users with a malified intent. Very, very far and few cases will be there where the malified intent has been seen. Otherwise, users, or typically everybody wants to do a decent job. Everybody wants to do good job. When everybody wants to do a decent job, how can technology help them? That's basically the onus on the technology provider. So when you're making a choice of payroll partner, ensure that these are certain facets of that partner. Those processes should be automated in the system, and even if, let's say, there is a process which is not automated, that process should be created in such a manner that there is a complete maker checker process and an audit trail process. Then data validation, which is a pre and a post payroll check. So there will be a pre payroll check. Now, if we are able to do a pre payroll check from the system, this means any configuration change. What was the old value of the configuration? What was the effective date of the configuration? What is the new value, new effective date? So, if you're able to do all those pre payroll checking, then this means that you will not actually get post payroll observations, because, as I said, there are three reasons: data issue, config issue, bug in the system. If we are able to do a pre check of data and config, then what is left? The only thing left is that if the system is not performing or the calculations correctly, so that means there is bug in the system, which any technology provider, be it PeopleStrong or anybody, will not be able to sustain in the market if there are a huge amount of bugs. So third reason, which is bug, is a very minuscule reason. Top two reason, data and config, should be arrested before even the payroll is processed. Post payroll observation is basically there are certain control checkpoints, like, for example, what is the total headcount that you are processing? What is the total payment of gross salary, gross to net salary that you are processing? So there will be certain cross control checkpoints, because you have to take the approval of your finance head also before you disperse, and the variance reports. So all those variance reports, why the variance is happening, what is the reason of difference of salary, all those reports are generated and they are provided. That's a very important process. Post payroll process, I believe, has been from a lot of time, but there have been incremental changes in post payroll control checks also, which one needs to see that they are as per the need of today. Auto processes, like earlier, many processes were happening which were like, data was coming, validation was being done in a manner which was manual, which was not automated. So auto process means that the entire conveyor system, wherever there was manual intervention, now today, because technology has taken the front seat, most of the things have been automated. So it is very important that when you are making a choice of a payroll partner, see the entire landscape, that from the start of data to the end, that is the dispersal and also the reporting, what all things are still being done manually or what all processes have been automated. Majorly, it was going to be your data collection, data validation, or data checking, audit trails. Just ensure that most of the processes have been automated. Lastly, there is reporting and host to host integration. So it's important that as a user, are having access of the technology through which you are able to generate your reports. Because otherwise, what happens is that you will be generating your reports in a non-automated manner using VLOOKUPs and all that stuff, which will then entail that possibly there is a chance of doing mistakes. So ensure that your reports are coming from the system, or in case the formats are not exactly the way you want, still there are utilities which are able to create those formats for you, because I will not expect that each and every format will be available in each and every technology, but at least each and every data point should be extracted from the system, and then in case you want something in your format, you can use a utility. So it should not be a manual thing, it should be basis technology only. And then ensure that your bank files are encrypted, ensure that your bank files are host to host integrated, your JVs are encrypted, your JVs are host to host integrated. Because if you are downloading a bank file and then, and this is something which I have come across, somebody with wrong intention modified the bank file and then uploaded, and then it only comes to light when an auditor actually highlights that. So it's very important that you have your bank file and JVs as encrypted and there is a host to host integration. So these are certain process changes which I have seen, and I will recommend that when anybody is making a choice of a payroll partner, it's important that one looks into all these facets.
Thank you, Vikas. It was crystal clear with respect to the overall process. We'll move to the next one, which is on audit, right? Which is again part of the
It's part of
process.
the process only. It's part of the process. So it's very important that you are doing your internal audit and ensure that your internal audits are not, internal auditors are not reporting to the same team. They are part of another team. They should be independent. And external audit is also very important. So today, like SOC 1, SOC 2 compliance, ISO 27001 certification, GDPR, PDP, DPTP Act. All these are very, very important audits. And one should ensure that your payroll partner should actually have all this auditing in place.
Right. Then I think we'll move to the people now.
Yeah,
That the
people is
next.
very important because no
Yes.
organization can work without people. And while you are making a choice of the partner basis the technology, basis the process, it's very important the people element of this. People should have the right skill set. Ensure that there is correct amount of training which is provided by the partner. Partner should not hire people, put them on floor without training, and there will be different aspects of training basis the role that the person is going to play. Ensure that the person is given training, ensure that there is proper assessment of the person, and then only the person is provided or hits the floor basis the role he or she has been provided. In case we are not providing them training, then this means that they will be doing mistakes while on the job, and then they will automatically get trained. I understand that there will be certain amount of mistakes that anybody will do even after training and even after assessment, but it's important that we reduce the gap. If we are not providing those trainings and we are not doing assessments of the people, then it's like it's not going to be a person mistake, it's the organization's mistake. Because you hire people, but it is organization's responsibility that right amount of training is provided, right amount of assessment is done, and then only that person is handed over with the role that he or she is supposed to. While you train, in training, there should be a sensibility which is with respect to problem solving capability that one needs to inculcate in the people. So instead of solving only the transactions, we have to inculcate this value in the people that they should go to the root of the problem. Because if you are only solving the transaction, then the same kind of anomaly will keep on happening. So it's really very important that go to the root, understand that why this issue happened, create kappas, which is the corrective action and the preventive action plans, and if there is some mistake that has happened at one place, ensure that that corrective and preventive action is provided at all levels, so that it is not that one client gets rectified. Ensure that all the customers which this partner is processing for, or all the customers where this product is being utilized, it gets corrected for everybody. So we need to inculcate this habit of problem solving in the people, not transaction solving. Getting to the root, creating kappas, learning from the mistakes, not repeating the mistakes. See, it's like I tell my team members that there can be an average person and there can be a very smart person, and then there can be a super smart person. An average person will be that possibly they will be doing mistakes, repeating mistake 3 times 4 times, then learning from the mistake. An above average person will be learning from somebody else's mistake, some of the things, and doing less mistakes, which means possibly once or twice, and then learning. A super smart person is that the person is learning from somebody else's mistake, and even if they do mistake, they are very quick learners and they do not repeat their mistakes. So that actually depends on the individual. That also depends, like for example, if technology is able to highlight the mistakes, so because there is a complete maker and checker process, and because the entire conversation of a person which is your approving authority and is recorded in the system, those mistakes can be highlighted and I can be on a self learning path. So problem solving capabilities, learning from the mistakes, creating those kappas are some of the nuances which we have to look into the organization which is processing payroll. Then it is very important about the orientation and the sensitivity of the people. We started the conversation, I believe, saying that whether payroll is a thankless job or a blessing. So when I come across people, and quite a few people say that HR payroll is sort of a thankless job. It's like people will only come to you when you are doing mistakes. Possibly appreciation is not going to happen. It's like when the mistake is happening, then only your performance will be highlighted. That it's not up to the mark. Now that is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that it's a blessing that we are processing so many paychecks and so many salaries. So how can we give this sensibility, orientation to our people? We share the same anecdotal things with our people, and we try to convert them, which means their thought, uh, that if I perceive this as a blessing, I'll be actually enjoying my work. And if I crib all day that payroll is something where people are not going to appreciate, it will only be depreciation which is going to be there. I'll be cribbing all day and I'll be not enjoying my work. So it depends on us only. But any organization which is doing induction of the people, which is training people, it is very important that you keep on repeating these things to your people, so that they have that change in their thought. The moment they have that change in their thought, believe me, they will feel good about it. They feel happy about the work, and they don't get stressed with this. Otherwise, we have found that the moment people start thinking that it's a thankless job, there is a lot of stress, unnecessary cripping is there, so we can avoid. Then there is certification. So as I said, when we are ensuring that people are trained, people are assessed, it's important that we also do certifications. So there can be internal certification and there can be external certification. So imagine a person, when he or she is being trained, when you assess the person, then the person knows that at what level he or she is, and even the manager knows at what level he or she is. Now when you certify that person, you are actually giving that person a validation and happiness, because when you give a certificate to anybody acknowledging that they have put in their effort, they are trained, they have been assessed, and they are certified, that brings that validation to the person. The person's confidence is going to increase, and they also feel happy about the certification. So there should be internal certifications and there should be external certifications. Both should be there with the partner. That's our learning. So we follow this practice at PeopleStrong, and we have seen that this has helped us, and people feel good about it. They are more confident after the validation has been provided. So these are basically the three uh, tangents: people, process, and technology, which anybody should look into while they are deciding on the right payroll partner. Uh, and all we have discussed, Bala, is that all the various facets in these three things, people, process, technology, they are very, very important. And I hope that whosoever goes through this session, they get few things. And I will also love to hear from whosoever has gone through this about their experience.
Yes, thank you so much, Vikas, for sharing your knowledge, thoughts on this topic, how to choose a right payroll partner. And it was well articulated, and the importance of process, people, and technology together. Technology has become the backbone, irrespective of whether you outsource the payroll or you do it in house. Technology is the backbone, supported by strong and skilled people with sensible thought process, and also a strong process, including audits, right?
Yeah.
So this is very helpful. So I think I hope, as you rightly mentioned, I hope this session helps the viewers to gain a bit on that part. Whenever they try to enhance their payroll process, it's not only for, I mean, this session is not only useful for the people who are trying to change their payroll partner, even to enhance their existing process. Right? I think this will be a useful session to them. Thank you so much, Vikas, for joining
And
today,
thanks, Bala. Thank you so much. Thank
and
you.
look forward to do more masterclass with you on payroll. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
I mean, I don't know whether I am master, as I said, I'm still learning.
Yeah, and so that's
I can share my experiences.
no, no, definitely that is enough. I think that will help a lot the audience. I'm
Perfect.
good. Thank you.
Take
Anu
care.
will
Bye
stop
bye.
here.